Good day, everybody. This is Joshua Pearson, and welcome to the VirtaMove webinar. Can everybody hear me at this point? Quick acknowledgement would be great.
I can definitely hear you, Josh.
Fantastic. Okay, it's the top of the hour. Today's webinar is in regards to application migrations, and we're going to be demonstrating the Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5 migration. And again, my name is Josh Pearson. I'm VP of Sales here at VirtaMove. And with me today on the webinar is Mark Woodward, our VP of Engineering and Development.
Good afternoon, folks.
Thank you, Mark. During the course of both the presentation and the demo, we are going to be monitoring the chat window. So please make good use of it and send a question along as they come up. And depending on the question itself, we'll either interrupt and answer it in real time. And we do have time slotted at the end of the presentation and demo to address any questions that we didn't address in real time. So that being said, we'll get started. So today, over the course of this demo, we're going to show you three different things. We're going to talk initially about the issues in particular, the end of extended lifecycle support for Red Hat Linux version 5. We're going to walk you through the solution, and that is a demonstration of the stateful migration of a legacy Oracle database and of Oracle Enterprise Manager from Red Hat 5 to Docker Red Hat 8. And then separately, we're going to walk you through the migration from Docker to a Windows 2019 platform as a second migration. And then we're going to review the value of being able to migrate from unsupported RHEL 5 and 6 applications to more modern supported releases of both RHEL 8 and Windows 2019. And you'll note during the presentation that all the configurations are being managed on the fly. So the issues are the fact that for RHEL 5, end of extended lifecycle support is November 30th, 2020, so coming up rather quickly. And the end of lifecycle support for RHEL 6 is also November 30th, 2020. Now that's an issue because there is an inherent security concern when running unsupported operating systems. Risk is increased for you because of your inability to use the new operating systems with security enhancements in them, and that can limit your use of open source code going forward to modify your applications. Agility and performance will suffer because of your and there may be an inability to take advantage of some of the cloud environments that won't let you, won't host a unsupported version of Linux. And then of course, there's the cost associated with the additional support and the potential for a lost opportunity, not being able to potentially update and modify your applications to increase the business value. Now, the solution that we're going to walk you through is the VirtaMove vMigrate tool. And we're going to demonstrate the automatic Linux server application, both discovery, migration, and containerization over the course of the demo. We're going to show you moving legacy Linux applications to a modern release and how you can do that in one step. So the demo is going to illustrate the VirtaMove vMigrate solution. So as a precursor to the demo, legacy migrations is core to the VirtaMove business. And as an example of that, you'll note that we have literally migrated thousands of legacy Windows applications for hundreds of clients. And just a quick overview on how we do that is that we engage our clients who have older unsupported Windows operating systems running on some servers, 2000, 2003, or 2008. And we help them move to a more modern 2012, 2016, or 2019 servers. The way we do that is that we install our solution both on the destination and then a small agent on the source server with the unsupported operating system. We work with the clients to be selective in terms of the applications on that old source server that they would like to migrate. We select the applications and the dependencies associated with that application. And then we take a stateful or an as-is state, a copy of the as-is state of the particular applications and dependencies that have been chosen. And with that copy, we move that to the destination server. And because our solution is primarily installed on the destination server, we have established a staging container. And that staging container takes advantage of that modern operating system. And it's in that container that you have the ability then to you have the ability to verify that the copy of the application taken from the old source operating system functions properly in that net new operating system. And during the course of this verification, we've not had any interruption to the old server, and the business application is still up and running and there is no interruption. So we complete that verify state and we get sign off from the business that the application is now running in the container as it was running on the old operating system. And then at that point, you have the ability then to dissolve that container. And once that container is dissolved, the application is then running up on its own on that net new operating system. And again, the target or destination locations for the Windows environment could be in a container. It could be in a physical server, a virtual server, any flavor of the cloud, or a Windows Docker container. So what we're going to show you today from a Linux perspective is a legacy application migration. And our source system is going to be RHEL 5.1 running legacy apps Oracle database 11.2. And we're going to migrate that initially to a modern Linux environment. It could be Red Hat, SUSE, or CentOS. And that environment is going to contain RHEL 8, and again, an Oracle database 11.1. And once that is complete, we'll show you how then you then have the capability to take that container and migrate it into a modern Windows environment, such as Azure or Windows 2019. So the benefits of what we're going to show you is that there is no need to first upgrade the Linux releases. The software versions, they can be upgraded during the migration. Install scripts and source codes, they're not required for a stateful, and that's an important word, a stateful Linux legacy reinstall into a Docker container. The advantage of you then have the advantage of leveraging modern releases and the features and functions associated with them, and avoiding the security and non-compliance risks associated with running on an unsupported platform. At this point, we're going to begin the demo, and here we go.
This video will show a VirtaMove migration of an Oracle database server from Red Hat Linux Release 5.11 to a Docker container on a destination server running Red Hat Linux Release 8.1. Then, from the Linux server to a second destination server this time running Windows 2019. The white command window is an SSH session connecting to a source Linux server with the Oracle database. From here, we can confirm this server is running Linux release 5.11. When using the IP address of the source server and attempting to connect to the database, it shows us not responding. This is because we have not yet started the Oracle services. In this black command window, we are running an SSH session to the destination server, which has release 8.1 installed. Similarly, when using the IP address of the destination server, there is no Oracle web page available. Now on to the Windows 2019 server to confirm no Oracle presence either using the same method, but with the Windows IP address instead. Our first task is to start the Oracle server and the Oracle DB console services using the appropriate Linux commands. Once these services have started, we will be able to have a web view into the Oracle database on the source Linux 5.11 server. Now that the services have started, we can reference the IP address of the source server to use the web view to interact with the database and perform a simple query. Referencing the IP address of the Linux source server, we can now verify the contents of the website and that it is active on the source server at this time. We can also log in and view configurations on the web server. We can also run simple queries to confirm that everything is running successfully on the Linux source server at this point. Our next step is to stop the services on the source server. This will assist with the successful migration to the Linux 8.1 destination server. Now that we've seen the application working on the Linux 5.11 server, we can move to the Linux 8.1 destination server to begin the migration. At this time, we do not have a Docker image container present on this server. We run the VirtaImage command to pull a Red Hat 8 base Docker image from the Red Hat container registry and install the VirtaMove software to the base image to create a VirtaMove image. Once that pull is complete, we can verify that the size is quite small. We run a simple command to set the host name of the Docker image to match that of the source Linux server. This will allow our Oracle application to be rehosted much easier. Running a VirtaMove command lists the users and groups unique on the Linux 5.11 source server. This allows us to select the specific accounts required on the destination server and migrate these same accounts using the virta-account command with the -m switch to our container. We start the VirtaMove tether proxy service to create a communication link from the Linux destination container to the source Linux server. Once the tether connection is established, we can start the services from within the VirtaMove Docker container, using the same command used previously to start the services, but prefixing it with virta-run. As the services start and request the specific files, those files, components, and data will be copied from the source Linux server to the destination Linux server VirtaMove Docker container. This process will continue to copy and build out the application as more files and directories are discovered. Note that this is a copy process and the application is not deleted from the source Linux server. Next, we can perform the same start and copy action for the database. Now that the services have started successfully and the content has been copied over, we can verify that the web view and database are working properly within the context of the VirtaMove Docker container. Returning to the web browser and referencing the Linux destination server IP address, we can now see that the web service is working properly. We can also log in and perform simple queries to confirm that the database is also working correctly. When we compare to the Linux source server, we can confirm that the information being displayed matches what we've just migrated to the Linux destination server. This confirms that we have successfully migrated the Oracle database from the old Linux 5.11 source server to the new Linux 8.1 server. Now that we have a working copy of the Oracle application within the VirtaMove Docker container, we can move that same Oracle application from the Linux 8.1 server to the new Windows 2019 server. As with our migration from the Linux 5.11 server, our first step will be to stop the Oracle services on the Linux destination server prior to beginning the migration to the Windows destination server. Once the DB console is stopped, we will also need to stop the VirtaMove tether proxy. Our next step is to commit these changes to the container, then export that container to a .tar file. From a new terminal window on the Linux destination server, we use the docker ls command to list the 2 Docker images previously created. We'll need to verify the Docker container ID to ensure that we commit the correct container. It is this container that we will commit to a new image called Oracle Migrated. This image will include the migrated application components and data we've just migrated from the Linux 5.11 source server to this Linux 8.1 destination server. Another quick docker ls image command shows the previous 2 images as well as our new 3rd image that we've just created. Now we save that image to a .tar file into a shared directory that can be accessed from the Windows 2019 server. Moving now to the Windows 2019 destination server, we can confirm there is no Docker image present at this time. Our first step is to load the Docker image to the Windows server that we've just saved. Once the load is complete, when we list the images, we can see Oracle Migrated image is now available. Now we can run the command to start our Oracle Migrated container image. Note that we use the same switches we've used on the Linux 8.1 destination server, referencing the hostname of the original Linux 5.1 server. From within the container, we can start the Oracle service. Since we've already used the VirtaMove commands to migrate the data, we do not need to use them this time. Rather, we start the services using the standard native commands. This is the same for the DB console services. Once those services have started, we confirm that everything is running correctly via a browser window, the same way we validated the first application migrated to Linux 8.1 destination server. This time, we reference the Windows destination server IP address to perform those same verification steps. Our last step is to compare the information from all 3 servers, allowing us to confirm that we've successfully migrated the same services, data, and application components from the source Linux 5.11 server to the Linux 8.1 destination server, then finally to a Docker container running on a Windows 2019 server. Our migration is now complete.
So we've just completed showing you the demo of migrating from an unsupported Linux environment to a supported Linux environment, and then separately moving that application to a supported Windows 2019 environment. Lots of additional value for being able to move your environments from one platform to another. So a sample of some of the other easily migrated applications is listed here below, we've successfully migrated these plus many, many more. So in summary, with the coming of the end of extended lifecycle support for Red Hat 5, we've noted that we've given you a solution to move your unsupported applications off of that operating system to a net new supported operating system. And the example that we showed you was moving legacy apps from RHEL 5 to RHEL 8. Legacy applications 5 and 6, they can also be hosted on Windows 2019, as we showed you in the back half of the demonstration. And I'll just reiterate that all the reconfiguration that takes place during the migrations, that is done on the fly. So I'd encourage you, if you'd like to learn more about VirtaMove's vMigrate technology, whether it be on the Windows that we talked about prior to the demonstration or on the Linux environment, to reach out and engage the VirtaMove team either on a one-on-one call, and we'll be happy to provide you with an additional demo or any material that would be helpful based on what your interest is. Often, customers will want to engage and try some migrations within their own environment on a small number of servers. and we're happy to engage and have those discussions if that's something that would work for you and your organization. So don't hesitate, please, to reach out at sales@virtamove.com, or there's a contact us form on our website, and we'll respond to that. So, Mark, I'll turn it to you to elaborate on any of the questions and provide some answers that may have been asked.
Thanks, Josh. So I was just typing an answer to one question here, but I'll answer it on the air. The question was, can we retain the application on Red Hat Enterprise Linux 8.1 once migrated? Absolutely. The version of the OS is baked into the container. So when you move the container, the 8.1 Red Hat OS version goes with it. It doesn't limit it to running on Red Hat 8.1. It will run on any supported Docker installation. And as we showed, that even extends to the Windows implementation of Docker containers. And the following question from an earlier question about whether it was GA or not. So elaborated that the Windows side is GA and it's been in release for a number of years now. This is a new venture into the Linux side of things, and right now it's in a beta mode right now, so we will work with customers to test this out in their environment. So the best thing is to reach out to Josh if you're interested, and we can arrange the next steps from there. Let's see, what else was there in here? Oh, there was a question about sharing the webinar. I think that's already been answered while I was talking. Yes, thanks, Scott. I think that's the outstanding questions that I see that other people have got to so far. Josh, you have any last words?
Well, if there's anything, Mark, that I didn't cover over the course of the presentation, or something you'd like to elaborate on to accentuate some of the value, by all means, feel free. Let me know, and if you'd like to do that, we'll make time for that.
No, I think it was covered well. Can I migrate an in-house developed application? Absolutely. We can. It doesn't have to be an off-the-shelf. Like it can be a custom, bespoke app that has been developed in-house or via a consultant. It doesn't have to be a commercial off-the-shelf package. So the only other thing I would elaborate on there, Josh, is, you know, we've got a lot of experience in Windows, and we're excited to be extending this experience and expertise into the Linux side and help people address the legacy applications, be on a stable, secure OS, and make the world a better place and safer for corporations.
Fantastic.
Yes, another question here about off-the-shelf applications. Yes, it will run any of the commercial applications that run on Red Hat. So we can go back as far as Red Hat 5, but we also cover 6, 7. You can use 7 as a target as well. It doesn't have to go as far as 8 if you're not on the bleeding edge of Red Hat OS versions.
And I think, you know, based on some of those questions, I think, you know, it's important to understand that it's really less about whether or not VirtaMove can move the application itself, because we can pick it up and move it. It's really about using the solution to ensure that it runs in a compatible state on the net new operating system. So it's not necessarily about the application itself, but it's using the solution and our expertise in the migration realm to ensure that the application itself will function on that net new environment.
Okay. Another question just popped in. Can we migrate across SUSE, Red Hat, and Oracle Linux? So we focused primarily on the Red Hat side of things. It's the well-known established commercial offering of Linux. We have had success with CentOS, which is a Red Hat derivative. Once we get more experience with the Red Hat side of things, then we don't see any reason that this would not extend to SUSE and Oracle, because we're not actually dependent on the packaging tools. So we're not dependent on .debs or RPMs or tar files. We perform the migration in a different manner. So we're not actually tied into the packaging tools side of things. We're able to address various packaging choices that were made for Linux OSs. So in theory, Ubuntu would be another option, and Mint. So all of those type of flavors of OSs we can target for migrations too. Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in. So I'll make a call for the last round of questions.
I think you got one.
No, that was just saying thanks for the demo. So thank you. You're more than welcome. And like I say, if you need any more information, reach out to either myself or Josh, and we'd be more than happy to sit down and go into more details.
So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you taking the time to join us today, and we look forward to being able to help you in the future. Take care. Have a great afternoon.